move on. The Falcons. Interesting piece on the Falcoholic with highlighting something that Phil Yates of ESPN was wondering about with this group. For you, Garrett, do you think the limited depth at wide receiver will ultimately doom the Falcons from reaching their full capabilities in 2023?
No, it's not the wide receiver core that's going to doom the Falcons. Because I think pieces like this look at the wide receiver room and think that it's a zero-sum thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as if you don't have the guy who's labeled as a wide receiver, then he doesn't exist on this roster. Look, I respect all of these national pundits, but they don't know the Atlanta Falcons as well as we do. They just don't. And I mean that with all due respect, because these are very smart guys. They know the league better than I do, significantly better than I do. I know the Atlanta Falcons better than they do. You know, Bijan Robinson is a wide receiver for this team, or he's a pass catcher. Cordero Patterson is going to be a pass catcher. Kyle Pitts is going to be a pass catcher. That's not the thing that's going to doom the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, they lost Calvin Ridley. Yeah, they lost Olamide Zaccheaus. I mean, come on. Look. It's not about the wide receiver position. It's about, can Desmond Ridder play mistake-free football? Can he hand the ball off effectively? Is Bijan Robinson everything he expected? Is this offensive line going to continue progressing? Is Bergeron the guy who we expect him to be at left guard, assuming he wins the job? More importantly, the defense. Can they rush the passer? Can they sack the quarterback at a higher clip that's more than, 20 times? Like, if they can get more than 20 sacks next year, geez, that'd be like a career high over the last couple of years. You know, I think that's really going to be the big key for the Falcons this year. Not the wide receiver core. That's like number 5 on the list for me. Like, that's not even remotely close. Is Jeff Okudah going to be a strong second option at cornerback? Is Troy Anderson ready to take the next step and lead this team in tackles? Is Arnold Ebiketie going to take the next step and reach double-digit sacks? That's all far more important to me than if the wide receiver position behind Drake London is worth the half damn. That's so low on the list to me, because the wide receiver 2 on this team is not a wide receiver. It's Kyle Pitts. Like, it's ridiculous. I just think it's a little silly. That's all.
I think they're right in terms of if the Falcons find themselves in a, I'm trying to think who in the NFC. I think maybe a little bit more concerned if it was the AFC, just because of the elite quarterback.
Well, the AFC is a lot better than the NFC is. I mean,
I just think it's a lot more high octane offenses, right? Like, you have the best person, like the best wide receiver grouping 2 years in a row is in Cincy, with Boyd, with Jamar Chase, with
it's elite.
T.
And then you go down to the Dolphins with Waddle,
Jalen Waddle and Hill. Like, there's dudes, Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. Like, there are dudes everywhere. So you're going to have to be able to throw the football around to win the AFC. The NFC, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think the Cowboys have a really good receiver room. Dak's probably my best quarterback in the NFC right now. And
Dak?
then, I think it's Dak. Who would you have above Dak right now?
Jalen Hurts.
No. Jalen Hurts probably 2 or 3, though.
I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott.
I think if you asked around the league, if you could have him straight up, contracts are the exact same. I think
he's due $55 million. No, I'm just going to disagree. We're going to agree to disagree. I want to stay on topic here. Dak is not my best quarterback in the NFC, though. We can agree to disagree there.
Yeah. I will say, you look at it, there isn't depth. Like, they're not wrong that, like, this is a different way of trying to win. Like, it's not like the Titans wide receiver room, which is just god awful, but it's also, they're an injury to away from, like, low-key disaster on that front, where it's like, who's going to be catching balls?
But
where it's
you
like,
can't assume injuries. I mean, you understand that people are going to get banged up,
point.
But they're paper thin at wide receiver.
Like, if Drake London goes down, if Drake London, God forbid, goes down, this receiver room, I mean, you might be looking at weeks where it's like Mac Hollins, Frank Darby, Scotty Miller as your receiver. Like, that's the worst trio in the league if that happens. Like, that is literally the worst in the league. So there is some concern there where, like, they need certain guys. Like, Kyle Pitts and Drake London need to be healthy. Like, that's just...
Yeah, and we're assuming that Kyle Pitts comes back healthy.
Yes.
And is Kyle Pitts, you know?
Yeah. And if he is, that blots a lot of this out. But I will say, I think the Falcons... I would still prefer they bring in one more wideout. Like, I would prefer one more upgrade at the slot spot. I would prefer, you're not going to be able to trade for Hunter Renfrow if they don't want to get traded, but like, or the Raiders don't want to trade for him. But I'm like, I do think the Falcons should have been a little bit more active in bringing in one more guy in this receiver room.
I mean, they got guys out there. Do you go get DeAndre Hopkins? I don't think that that's someone that
I want
they're
a slot
interested
guy.
in.
I want a third down safety net. Like, I want someone I can trust who can make Desmond Ritter's life a lot easier.
Kyle Pitts?
I mean, Kyle Pitts is one.
Sure. I mean, I think Drake London's going to be that dude, too. I mean, I think Scotty Miller is going to be a little bit better than some people think. I think he's going to be
a lot from him right now.
Say?
They need a lot from him right now. Like, a lot.
No, they're going to be asking a lot from him. But Bijan Robinson, Cordero Patterson, those are dudes who are also going to fulfill that role.
Yeah.
You know? You have, I'm blanking on his name. Shoot. The tight end who we just brought in.
Oh, Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu Smith is another one of those guys who can fill that role. We can just edit that little bit out right there.
No, that's okay. No, but maybe it's Felipe
No, but
Franks.
Jonnu Smith is another guy who could come in and catch the football in third downs and red zone situations. I think they've got some guys. I see what you're saying. Go pull in some another talented dude. I don't know who's out there who's going to be able to jump out. I mean, maybe they can go get someone who gets cut from the roster. Maybe there's another roster casualty come fall camp or something. But
you know who's out there that I would do? I would either go T.Y. Hilton. He still showed some stuff for the Cowboys last year. Not a lot in the tank left, just a little.
I don't know what he has left.
Jarvis Landry, I wouldn't hate just taking a flyer on.
Jarvis Landry, I don't know how much he has left.
I would just take a flyer. Give me somebody else that I could.
Camp. I mean, that would surprise.
Give me some camp invites. Give me some options here.
I'm
just a little nervous.
What you're saying.
They get down. Like, this is a team that I'm very curious to see how they play down.
But it's not. I see what you're saying. Like, they're paper thin, but it's not something that's like a 9-1-1. Like, it's going to doom the Falcons. Sure. I mean, you could say, okay, if Drake London gets hurt, yeah, like it would be a big hit to the Falcons. You could say that about a half dozen teams in the NFL. If Tyreek Hill gets hurt, that really screws up the plans for the Miami Dolphins next year. If Travis Kelce gets hurt, that really screws up plans for what Kansas City can do. You can make this argument. Stephon Diggs gets hurt. It screws up plans. Of course it does. Because
what helps having Josh Allen?
Well, yeah, it certainly does. And in our case, it helps to have the best rushing attack in the NFL. So
I think the Niners are still probably there.
Niners are right there. But I mean, like, look, we're right up there with all of them. I mean, we're going to be a pretty damn good rushing attack this year. And so it's not going to doom the Falcons. That's why it's like looking at the roster right now and saying, like, that's going to be the reason. It could be one of the reasons, sure. I mean, but I'm not willing to hit the panic button. This is not a team that's going to be throwing the ball 40 times a game either. Like, we ran at a very high clip last year. I don't think we'll run quite as much as we did last year. Like, we had the one time where we ran the ball, 16 times in a row. I don't see that happening again this year because we have a competent quarterback, I'd say, or at least more so than Marcus Mariota was. And the Falcons will be a little bit more balanced in terms of that, like at least more league normal. Like, they're not going to run it. They're not going to run the ball more than they pass, I don't think. But you're still not going to really throw the ball more than 30 times a game, right?
I just think it'll be fascinating. This is a team that I don't want to be in this spot, but I'm very fascinated to see what the Falcons look like down 28-7 at the half.
I don't think this doesn't strike me as a team that is going to be down 28-7 at the half.
This defense might be pretty bad.
The defense is a big question mark. Like, that's the thing. I think the defense has so much variability. We talked about this a few weeks ago when Max was on the pod with us.
Yeah.
It has potential to be like a 15-20 off a defense. Like, right there in
30th,
scoring defense and
31st.
But that's on the other side of the coin. What happens if these guys don't take the next step? Like, what happens if they missed on Arnold Ebiketie? What happens if D'Angelo Malone doesn't do anything and Calais Campbell just has nothing left in the tank and Grady Jarrett is right back in that same situation where he's the only dude on the defensive line who's worth a half damn and they just double team him and they just kill you? What happens if Jeff Okudah really was just kind of a bum and the Lions traded him for